Welcome to the archive for Sexology. Among many other things, we also offer a free online curriculum in sexual health. I am its author, Erwin Haberle. The curriculum consists of 6 courses, 6 semesters, and can be studied not only at home but also in the classroom. Right now, I would like to talk about a subject covered in our course on human sexual behavior. That very difficult subject is sexual contact between adults and children. You will find it in the section dealing with prohibited sexual behavior and sexual violence. In recent years, we all have been hearing and reading a lot about pedophilia, pedophiles, child molesters, sexual abuse of children, and the rape of children by adults. And there seems to be no end to such stories. No wonder people are upset and bewildered. Without any question, we are dealing here with a very serious problem. And especially we sexologists are expected to offer, if not a solution, at least some explanation. Now, in a short video like this, I cannot really do justice to this very complicated issue. You will find more detailed information about it in my course. However, what I can do right here is something else. I can give you some idea of why this issue is so complicated and why it is so hard to describe, understand, and discuss it in a reasonable and productive way. I also hope I can show you why we should approach TV and newspaper reports about it always with a great deal of caution. Now let's take a closer look at the issue. When people today discuss adult sexual contact with children, the term most often heard is pedophilia. Literally this means love of children, from Greek pais, boy or child, and philia, love. The term was invented and first used in the late 19th century by psychiatrists. In their definition, pedophilia means an adult's erotic love of children or the sexual attraction to children. Indeed, there are some adults, almost most of them men, who persistently and strongly feel this attraction. They are called pedophiles. They love children in an erotic, sexual way. It is important to remember here that psychiatrists use the word child in the same sense as most everybody else. Children are girls and boys before puberty. The age at which they reach puberty is usually before or around 13 at the latest. After that, they are no longer children, but teenagers. So, to repeat once more, both psychiatric and everyday language agree children are girls and boys under the age of 13, and pedophiles are adults who are sexually attracted to them. It's very clear and not complicated. However, the issue has recently been muddled by the United Nations and the European Union. With the best of intentions, they have, in their official documents, given us a new definition of childhood and thus created a great deal of confusion. Here are the documents. We see here 3 documents. 2 of them were written by the United Nations, and the 3rd one by the European Union. All 3 of these texts define child as every human being below the age of 18 years. Now please let me repeat this new definition. A child is every human being below the age of 18 years. This means that, as a result of international political decisions, we have now 17-year-old children and an entirely new problem. For example, if these 17-year-olds use their picture cell phones to take provocative nude photos of each other, they are creating and exchanging child pornography, being both victims and perpetrators at the same time. Unfortunately, this is no joke. In fact, some teenagers have already been convicted for such crimes. But this is a separate issue. What I want to point out here is the effect on our public discussion of pedophilia. Because of the new United Nations and European Union definition, both the original psychiatric and the everyday meaning of the term is getting lost. And the mass media now often fail to make the necessary distinctions. As a result, as ordinary citizens, we are no longer adequately informed about the exact nature and extent of the problem. For example, if a 21-year-old has sex with a 17-year-old child, is he committing sexual child abuse? And if so, should we call him a pedophile? Many news reports do not really make this clear. But since we are dealing here with such a serious issue, we need proper distinctions. There are just too many confusing terms out there. Just look at the following pages. Age of consent. What is the age at which an individual becomes legally competent to agree to sexual intercourse? This age of consent is different in different countries. It can range from 13 to 20. Moreover, some jurisdictions establish different age limits for different forms of sexual contact, and also differentiate between heterosexual and homosexual activity. There may also be a higher minimum age for commercial than for non-commercial sex. However, no matter how the age of consent is defined, sexual contact with a female or male under age is a crime. Minor. In everyday language, people sometimes refer to sexual contact between an adult and a child as sex with a minor. However, strictly speaking, a minor is an individual who has not yet reached adulthood. But the age of entering legal adulthood is not the same everywhere and is usually higher than the age of consent. Statutory rape. Consent given by someone under the age of consent is legally invalid, and the contact therefore amounts to statutory rape, that is, rape as defined by legal statute. In other words, consent does not count here. It is irrelevant whether the contact was voluntary or not. However, there is often a great discrepancy between the law and public opinion. In some countries, the general population regards the legal age limits as too strict and unrealistic. As a result, people ignore them in good conscience. In other countries, people find the laws too lenient. Often they are even unknown to most citizens, or are only rarely or selectively enforced. As I said before, when reading or hearing mass media reports about adult sexual contact with children, it is no longer easy to find one's way through the different definitions and exact meanings of child, child molester, pedophile, underage, sex with a minor, sexual child abuse, rape, and statutory rape. So we often still do not know what happened and who did what to whom, who was how old, and could or should the ages of those involved make a difference. We do know, however, that many sex crimes against children are committed not by pedophiles, but by other adults. They do not really have a strong and lasting sexual interest in children. Their real sexual interest lies elsewhere, and thus their behavior often remains occasional or episodic. They simply seize an opportunity or follow a fleeting impulse or are curious or take advantage of an unexpected situation or find it convenient to exploit a child's helplessness and dependency. Therefore, it is important to understand two basic facts. Not every adult who has sexual contact with a child is a pedophile. And not every pedophile has sexual contact with a child. To make this absolutely clear, not every pedophile is also a sex offender. Indeed, many pedophiles manage to control their urges. Some even deliberately avoid the company of children. This self-control is the goal of preventive therapy programs for pedophiles, because their sexual interests are not likely to change. In recent years, such prevention programs have been set up in several countries. Unfortunately and obviously, these programs never reach the great many situational offenders. But for the pedophiles, and therefore for society, they offer the best hope. So how do these programs work? They invite pedophiles into a safe environment where they can openly confront and discuss their sexual inclinations with experienced therapists and with each other. By learning to understand themselves and by developing strategies on how to avoid tempting situations, the pedophiles can train themselves to stay out of trouble. Clearly, prevention is always better than dealing with the problem after the fact. And of course, it also offers the best protection of the children, who then are never approached in the first place. There is a famous historical personality that today's pedophiles could emulate. Lewis Carroll, the author of Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. This wonderful author, a professor of mathematics at Oxford University, never married. However, he sought and enjoyed the company of very young girls. He entertained them, told them stories, and, with the permission of their parents, even took nude photographs of some of them. These photos, by the way, were very much admired at the time as charming and innocent. Today, using our modern psychiatric language, we would probably call Lewis Carroll a pedophile, a concept that did not exist in his time. In any case, he never overstepped the bounds of propriety and never attempted any unseemly physical contact. He remained a greatly respected and much beloved member of his community. As an author, he has, in the meantime, delighted millions of readers all over the world and is now as popular as ever, and rightly so. This is a positive role model pedophiles could be encouraged to follow today. And that, in principle, is what current therapies are trying to do. Above all, they try to prevent their clients from breaking the law. Thus, helping a pedophile to live with his fantasies without acting them out protects both him and the children he meets, or, even better in some cases, avoids meeting in the first place. Of course, this kind of preventive program is no miracle solution. It may not be 100% successful even with the voluntary participants, and it does nothing for the situational offenders who are not pedophiles. Still, it is a positive contribution that deserves to be better known and also deserves public support. You will find more on this entire very difficult subject in my course.